Hi everybody, Andrew Smith here and welcome to another video. And in this video I'm going to share with you 5 tips on how you can improve your business English writing skills. So I know that in We Speak Business we purely concentrate on speaking, and I thought it would be a good idea today in this video to share with you some tips on how to improve your writing skills. Because writing skills are really important. We typically write emails or letters or reports on a daily basis when working internationally, and it's something that is a really common function and we need to really get it right. So these 5 tips that I'm going to share with you today are really going to help you make your writing easier to understand, clearer, and just more professional. So the first tip that I have for you is to know your recipient. And a recipient is the person who receives your email. And when I say to know your recipient, what I really mean is to understand the relationship that you have with them. So when you are about to send an email, ask yourself, have I already had contact with this person before? Or do I know this person well? Are they a colleague that I see and speak to on a daily basis? Or is it somebody from another branch, the other side of the world? The answers to these questions will tell you whether you should be using formal or informal language. So as a general rule of thumb, if it is the first time we are having contact with this person, or if the person that we are emailing we have never met before, or they are very important, then we should opt for a more formal register. However, if we are emailing a colleague or somebody we have had communication or contact with before, then it's perfectly acceptable to use informal language. So the first tip is to know your recipient. Now, the second tip, and this one I would say is one of the most important ones, is to keep your emails short, concise, and to the point. So English speakers typically don't really like long-winded messages. Especially when we are reading an email, what we want to get the right information or the message as quickly as possible. So here, when you're writing an English email, your main message that you want to deliver in the email should be your second or third sentence in. So try to avoid all of these, niceties and all of these, how are you, how's the weather, and all this small talk. When we're writing an email, we just want the information straight away. Boom. So your second or third sentence should really be the main core of your message when writing an email or a letter. So first you start with the introduction, dear, or hi, or hello, then hope you are well, hope all is well on your end, and then go straight in with the main message. And remember, we don't really want to be sending super long emails. We want nice, short, concise emails that get the message across in the shortest and simplest way possible. Now, the third tip I have for you is to have a killer subject line. And when I say a killer subject line, what I mean is that the subject of your email should be very clear. Before the person even opens your email and reads your message, they should have a very good understanding as to what they're about to read from just reading your subject. Now, typically with a subject, we want to keep it to just a few short, simple words. And in these 3 or 4 words, we want to really summarize what it is that we are explaining or informing or instructing the other person in the email. So my third tip for you is to really keep your subject as clear and as short as possible, and ideally it should only be about 3 or 4 words, if that. Now my fourth tip is to be consistent with abbreviations or acronyms or anything like that. So a lot of the times students come to me and they will ask me to review their emails or some of the things they've been writing in English. And one of the most common errors that I've noticed is that sometimes they will use an abbreviation, for example, don't rather than do not, or can't rather than cannot. But later on in the email or further on down the email, they use the full forms rather than the abbreviations. So sometimes they will use abbreviations and other times they will use the full forms. And it's really not good etiquette to do this. So a great way for you to really appear or come across as more professional or a more professional writer is to be consistent with these types of words. If you're going to use abbreviations, make sure that every word that can be abbreviated is abbreviated. And if you're going to use acronyms or anything like that, make sure that you do the same thing. Do not have, sometimes use abbreviations and sometimes don't. You need to be consistent. And the fifth and final tip that I have for you in this video is to not use Google Translate. And I know this is very difficult to do because when we are learning a language, there might just be a word that we can't think of or we don't know. So we go to Google Translate and type in the word in our native language to get the translation. But here's the problem with using Google Translate. It's not always accurate, and what one word means in your native language might mean a completely different thing in English. And if you haven't already, in our free seminar, we talk a lot about the problems and the challenges that non-native English speakers face when translating words. And we give you some really good examples as to why it is really dangerous to do this. So if you haven't checked out our free seminar already, go to the description box above and you can sign up using the link there. But the fifth and final tip is to not use Google Translate. Instead, you can do two things. Firstly, try to think of just the simple word that you already know in your head rather than the exact specific word. Because 90% of the time, the word that you already know or you are already thinking of will fit perfectly fine. It's only that people try to be perfectionists and they need to find the perfect word and they won't rest until they have that perfect word. But the problem with this is that it takes a lot more time, and usually the perfect word doesn't really exist, or they get the wrong word and then the whole email just doesn't make sense. Now, the second option that you have, if you can't think of a simple word, is to go and get help from a colleague or a teacher. So if you have a colleague in the office and you know that they speak very good English or they're very good at writing emails in English, go and ask them for their help or advice. And if you don't have someone like that in your office, go and ask your English teacher or your business English teacher, and I'm sure that they will point you in the right direction. So those are my 5 tips on how you can improve your English writing skills immediately. The first one is to know the recipient, and from that you can tell whether you should be using formal or informal language. The second tip is to keep your emails short, concise, and to the point. Your main message should appear more or less straight away, and you should get to the point as quickly as possible. The third tip is to have a killer subject line. So in your subject line, this should be just 2, 3, or 4 words that summarize what it is you are saying in your email. The fourth tip was to be consistent with abbreviations, and this is really about etiquette. So if you use abbreviation in your email, make sure that all words that can be abbreviated are abbreviated. And the fifth and final rule or tip is to not use Google Translate. Instead, ask a colleague in the office or your boss who has a slightly higher level of English than you, or ask your business English teacher for their help and advice. So I hope that you found these 5 tips useful. Slightly different video from the usual ones we do, but writing is important, and I think if you apply these tips, it's really going to make your writing a lot clearer and a lot easier to understand in English. So thanks for watching, and in the comment section, write a comment with some of the main challenges and problems you face in English, and I will try to do a video where I address those points. Thanks for watching again, and I will see you in the next video.